Hello and welcome to Queers and Soaps. I'm Eric, and today joined by
Aaron.
bringing you some more General Hospital 1981, December 9th to the 15th. Rest in peace, Douglas Sheehan, who plays Joe, who was
Oh,
all in these episodes. That's all I could think about. I'm like,
he was
um,
such a sweetheart on this show too. It really hurts you.
Tommy, roll the credits and we'll chat. All right, so we got this. I don't know if this Randall Thompson new.
Who?
Randall Thompson, Edward's
Oh
secretary.
yeah. This is Randall's first
This is
episode.
his first
He
one. Okay.
because remember he fired Nancy because Nancy was doing what
Right,
Lila wanted him to do, and then he
right.
hired
And
Randall.
she's a woman.
Randall's yeah, and he's
He's done
sexist.
with
So
women.
Randall
He's done with
around
women.
for a long time. I love Randall. He's crazy.
So Edward's secretary, Randall, greets Alan. He's meeting Alan over Lila running the company. He's angry. He wants to get rid of her, but he still loves her. It's Edward.
Yeah.
um, uh, Lila is at Kelly's, um, and I think is Joe with her? I think she like talks to Joe, or is she
Lila
talking?
shows up. Lila shows up at Kelly's looking for Monica to tell, but Monica's not there yet because they're going to have lunch. So she tells Rose to let Monica know to come in and have a drink, and then she'll be back because she has to run some errands. And she runs into Joe,
She's so cute.
and they
And
recap. They
Joe,
recap about Alice Grant. Every time someone
yeah,
meets Joe, and just assume if they say hi to Joe, they talk about how Alice Grant is in prison and how sad he is about it.
well, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Joe is very depressed,
Yeah.
because he does not like that Alice is in prison. So, and he's of course the one that figured it out, since the detectives can't do their job in Port Charles.
That's hey, I like
To current
Randy.
day.
Nuh-uh,
Well, what
Max Scorpio was the best police commissioner they ever had. He's the only person that ever caught anyone.
unfortunately, that's not till the 90s. So we got a long time before Port Charles gets their shit together.
Oh, poor
Because even in
Garcia.
1983, they aren't they don't have it together.
Yeah, they
Um,
don't.
so anywho, there's a beaten girl that is rushed to the hospital. It's a hooker. Bobby kind of takes to her as she was a hooker in the past.
Right.
And Noah's on the case as well. Um, Next is Edward doesn't trust women, so he hired a man secretary.
Yes. Yes. It's so funny. Um
So funny.
what did he say
Cracks me up.
about Laura? He's like, well, what if Alan thinks all of this is ridiculous?
I
We
guess
do learn
was
one
Laura
important.
a secretary to them
Yes, she
before?
was.
Okay,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that must have been
Um,
like 80.
a few things. One of the important things we learn about Randall is that he reads the entirety of the newspaper, and that's how he has all the information in town. And one of the things he said to Alan was that he looked like his father, and Alan was severely offended. Which was very funny. So then in this scene, Alan just keeps telling Edward he doesn't want to get involved in the ELQ business. And
Yeah.
Edward's going on about Randall being a man and that's why he needs the job. And he says, "What about Laura?" And Edward says, "Laura is a woman. Like the rest of her gender, she cannot be trusted." And I cracked up laughing for 5 minutes because Alan's
Yeah,
response to that
it was
was,
funny.
"You're disgusting." I was like,
Yeah,
yay.
yeah. I mean, Alan's kind of just as bad. I mean, he cheats on his wife all the time and
His
stuff.
wife also
So
cheats on him all the time. So, I mean,
true, true.
honestly, they have the most egalitarian relationship on the show. They're both doctors, they're both
Right.
lords.
So in the next scene, we have I put Mr. Angelino from Three's Company tells Heather that they're going to have a new hearing for her. That's Dr. Katz is his name on the show, but I can't get past Mr. Angelino because that's weird. By the way, he's still alive and he's 87 years old. So go,
Oh,
Mr.
good for
Angelino.
Dr. Katz.
um, Edward wants to get the power of attorney and wants to have Lila deemed as incompetent, which is a
And the
lot of.
only way he can do that is to have two signatures, which he needs his and Alan's. And Alan keeps telling him to go pound sand.
Yeah,
He's
he
not
does
doing it.
not want to do that to his mama.
Yeah,
And
he's like, "That's my mother."
it's funny that this storyline is happening as I do Falcon Crest season 3 because that's what Angela is doing to Chase.
Right.
So I'm like, how
This seems
weird is
like
that?
this is in evil business owners 101. Is like if your relative is getting in the way, declare them insane and take over their proxy.
I wonder if people do that in real life. Do
Yeah,
you know anyone
that's what
out there,
happened.
people?
That's what happened to Britney Spears.
Yeah, in a way, I thought hers was like a little bit deeper than
No,
that
Britney
though.
Spears. Britney Spears was having a breakdown because of the stress of everything that was going on in her life, and her father took over as her power of attorney, and then forced her to do Vegas shows.
So must have
And
deemed her
he stole a bunch
incompetent.
of her money. This is all hearsay. Don't sue me. I think it was all proved in the news. But poor Britney Spears, she was put under a medical proxy. It happens to women a lot more often than it happens to men, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen to men. It does.
Right. I like that Mr. Angelino tells Heather to just be yourself, which I feel like is not good advice for Heather.
No, no, it's a terrible, terrible advice for Heather.
Please do not be yourself because you tried to kill multiple people and it's only 1981 and look at
Also,
where she is now.
she keeps ranting about how she hates her mother who saved her life. So
Yeah.
she does not look good.
Yeah, well, she hates her mother because I mean, she didn't really step up when she in jail. Like she could have been like, "Hey, I did it, so my Heather doesn't go to jail."
Yeah, in a way,
But
it proves what her mother was saying about how Heather needed to be institutionalized, and
yes,
that's why Alice didn't speak up. I love Alice Grant, by the way. She's great.
she's okay. I don't love her.
I love her.
Um, Edward tells Alan to stop being sensitive.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
Bobby Bobby is too involved with this hooker lady because she's really feeling for her. She can't have babies and stuff, right? He like fucked her up.
She was kicked and beaten so badly that they had to, I think, perform a hysterectomy because she was so
Yeah.
badly damaged, which is unfortunate because Dr. Bradshaw even says she's so incredibly young for this to have happened to. But I mean, for it to happen to anybody is absolutely
Uh, this is
incredible.
this is where Noah and Bobby's connection definitely deepened for me. Like they were like he was like great in these episodes. He's like, I love how you were there for her. Like, she probably would have died without just you caring. And
Yeah, up until now, I
that was
have
sweet.
not been invested in Bobby and Noah's relationship because of
Yeah.
how weird Noah's been in. I guess it's an 80s relationship. I don't know.
Well, it is, but also he's young and doctor. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of
I feel like
selfish.
yeah, I think he's selfish. I also think he is interested in her, but he's still really enjoying his hoe phase. And like she is
Right.
not interested in any of that because for her, relationships are a serious business.
I'd like to say that he's changing in this time, but we know what happens in 83, so I mean, he's not terrible, but he did cheat on Tiffany, I think, with Bobby, but that was a weird relationship anyway, whatever.
Well, but and also Tiffany was okay, that's in the future, but Tiffany was also
Yeah,
going through an insane phase where she was just pushing him away. So
we're gonna
it's
do a 1983 one. We'll talk about all that
we're currently this is the thing.
coming
We're
soon.
watching General Hospital in 3 eras. We're watching this era, we're watching 83 for fun,
Too
and
many
I'm
eras.
watching the regular era. So I'm literally always
Hey,
talking about General Hospital
I'm
as if I'm a
watching,
time traveler.
I'm watching 1992 as well, so I'm everywhere. I
I
need to
know what
hit the
happens in
70s and the
92.
60s.
Ooh, I
Sometimes you
wanna
do. You didn't
see
know about New AJ or this AJ.
uh yeah, no, I did not.
Who's
I did
really
not.
good, by the way. Anyway, back to 1981. Heather goes off on Joe. She hates her mama. Lyla likes Randall. She's already bonding with him, of course,
She
because she's
starts
Lyla
flirting with him,
and
and
she's the sweetest lady ever.
Edward is like, "Do not chase my secretary." And she said that young men are like lifeblood. She's flirting.
Um, what? I like what didn't Edward say something like she said she twisted her knee, and he's like, "Is that from kicking Quartermains on the way in or something?"
So the nice thing is that both Quartermain men immediately notice that she has a cane and ask her about it. Even Monica does. which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
nice considering that Edward was just talking about having her put in a sanitarium. So that's
So
like
she
a
didn't use a
nice.
cane. She didn't use a cane before this because I thought she did. I just haven't noticed. I wasn't really paying attention
I
to her
don't
too much.
remember her using a cane
I guess not
before. She sits a
if they
lot.
mentioned it.
Um,
Yeah,
she sits a lot, but like, yeah, this is the beginning of it. She
1983.
starts, yeah, she starts
She
using a
uses
cane
it.
for a lot most of the time.
Yeah. Bobby tells Noah about her past, and he already knew, I guess, because of his dad. And he's like, "Oh, my dad wanted, trying to talk shit about you, but he didn't care because he knows Bobby's heart," which is where I started. Was like, "Oh, he's winning me. He's winning me."
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Joe says, "Make peace with your mama" to Heather.
yes.
Um,
And Heather says
Lila,
no.
yeah, well,
She's like, why do I have to? Why?
she might have made peace with her now that she's dead in 1983, but
Oh.
anywho, different time. Lila gets computers for ELQ.
Yeah, Edward has been freaking out because his files are missing. And Lila implied that she may have incinerated all of them.
Oopsies.
But what she really did, because she was screwing with him, is she had them all digitized and put on computer, and then she had a computer brought in. And
Hmm.
she's literally like, the board of the LQ has been begging you to do this for ages, and so I've done it. So deal with it. And I love
Yeah,
her.
she's making positive changes to the company, even though he thinks it's all negative. But he
he,
did jump right in and he was like, "I'm going to try to learn this," even though it was a mess. He's like, "Does it come with a handbook?"
he was like, what are all these extra keys for? And she's like, there's going to be a guy, he's going to come tomorrow and teach you how to use it. And he's like, I don't like this, and he's already using it.
I'm telling you, his version of Edward, I feel like he has not had one happy moment in any of the times that I've seen him in.
He's miserable.
Not in 1992, not in the 80s, like nowhere, this man. It's
Yeah, but
funny because I feel like when John Ingle takes over, he takes a different route. He takes a
absolutely.
more comedic um and likable in a way. I mean, not that Edward's not likable, but
I think he
really
does
kind of not.
he sweetens him up because this version
Yeah.
of Edward is cantankerous. He is hilarious. Let's don't get it
Oh,
twisted.
he
This
is
is
for
a
sure.
very comedic
For
view
sure.
on a paternalistic male in the 80s who runs a company and thinks he's the powerhouse in his family, and meanwhile
Yeah.
his entire family is controlled by the women. And the thing
Yes.
is, Alan's very aware that Lyla and Monica are running the entire show, and he's fine with it. Like, even when he's mad at Monica, he's fine with it. Like, he just wanted to be a doctor. He doesn't care about ELQ.
Yeah. Right. So December 10th, Susan and Alan are talking about marriage. He says he's going to go to New York. I guess going to New York, you can get a quickie marriage back then.
No, his lawyer's in New
Um,
York.
yeah, but I think they referred to it like you can get a quicker marriage if you go to New York for some reason.
What
There must have been
she's
something going
what
on.
she okay, so first she's harassing him in the morning, and all he wants to do is read the paper. And you can see that there's cracks in this relationship already because she's boring and he's getting bored with her. But she demands that he go, like, she wants the divorce, and he goes, well, I guess what I'll do today is I'll go to New York and I'll see my lawyer. So
Yeah.
that's what he ends up doing.
We also have Tiffany and Laura preparing to go to New York for their little girls trip.
Yep.
This I'm not a fan of the Luke and Laura writing, by the way, in this week. Just saying.
No, I think
Um,
overall Luke acts like a spoiled crybaby whiner for the entire week, and he's aggressive in areas he doesn't need to be.
I
But
wasn't
yet,
sure if we were the same, feel the same way because I felt the same exact way. Like, because I'm like, I
well,
don't like this.
he sounds like somebody
Because
who
that's
got
a
married and then thought they were head of the household and didn't realize he married an equal partner, and now
yeah,
he's trying to, like, kind of throw his weight around, and it's getting thrown right back in his face because Laura ain't having it.
yeah.
I love Laura.
Thank
Jeannie
goodness.
Francis
Of
is
course,
so good. She's so
love
young in
Laura.
this, and she's so incredible.
I
She's
was just
also nice in
watching current.
person. Go meet her if you can.
I was just watching current GH, and she's killing it.
Oh, she's
She's
always
trying to
killing
get
it.
Heather
She's
out
my
there.
favorite. I love her.
So explain to me. So I have Luke put a flower on. It's the Helena Cassadine flower that she likes
So
or
this
something.
sterling silver rose showed up, and it's so funny because I was like, wow, sterling silver rose. And then he goes, a sterling silver rose. And I'm like, oh yeah, I worked in a greenhouse. But like this light purple rose is Helena Castine's favorite, and it appeared on the boat. They don't know how it got there. It was on the ground, and I think he hands it to her, or she hands it to him, because I know he tries to put it in his shirt like a boutonniere, and then it cuts him.
Yeah, yeah. And then he throws up. Um, Leslie, we're talking about this sports clinic, which we talked about for the next 2 years.
I don't care about the
Leslie,
sports clinic. As long the
Leslie and
storyline has
Rick.
never been interesting to me.
Eh, I like parts of it.
I like
Leslie and Rick
Leslie.
talk about it. Little Mike suggests the warehouse,
Hmm.
I'm like, he's a smart kid. This kid, I love this kid.
Yeah,
Alan bumps into Laura and Tiffany heading to New
that was
York.
cute. That was cute
Hmm.
because Tiffany immediately grabbed onto his arm and they started kind of like hanging out a little bit because they
Yeah.
were all getting on the train to go to the airplane to get to New York.
What was Luke drilling? Because I was like, what is happening here?
So
What, is he
they're
just making
working.
repairs?
Okay, so they've decided to take part of the penthouse suite or that room that they all have been hanging out in, and they want to
Right.
expand it into a lounge for when it becomes the cabaret. So what they're doing is they're removing the paneling between two of the rooms. That's what
Oh,
they're doing. So Robert and him are DIYing it, and they're
yeah.
literally pulling the panels off and cutting through the wall.
And what happened with that scarf? Where did that come out of the wall?
So Laura said she couldn't find her scarf, so they had to leave without it. And
Oh,
then he took the panel off the wall, and here the scarf was inside the wall. And
oh, and that's why they say it's haunted.
there's
Okay,
this general theme of the in the future the haunted star is haunted,
right.
and they start
Yeah,
kicking around the idea of calling it the what do they call it, the haunted boat or something like that.
yeah.
I do like any
So
scene where Robert and Luke are
are
bantering. I
getting
really
along.
enjoy that. Yeah, I know. In '83,
Um,
we're not so lucky.
no, not at all.
No.
Um, so Rick and Leslie, they were at Kelly's because Kelly warns Rick about the dude that owns the warehouse. She's like,
Yeah,
you might not want to
Darnley.
get involved with him. Yeah. Ellen, good Lord, I can't get my names right anymore. Alan sees the divorce lawyer. Um, Tiffany sees her agent, who is Milton Berle.
Yeah,
I was like,
Uncle Milty is in
what?
this.
I did not know he was in it. I had
Yeah,
no
he's
idea.
Tiffany's agent, Uncle Milty.
They talk, and he's like, "Nobody's gonna touch you, lady. Sorry," because she was involved with the Cassadine stuff, and
So he's basically like, you need to lie low for about 6 months, and then I'll start pitching you again. But right now,
yeah,
you're not going to get anybody's attention because of the stink of the Cassadines.
she's like, even commercials, and he's like, "No, nothing. No one will touch you, my dear." Leslie and Rick talk to the dude. He doesn't seem to care about anything. He's just a nasty man who just wants money, I guess.
Well, he's a
Um,
mobster and a
yeah,
scumbag and
yeah,
a
totally.
slumlord. Yeah.
He doesn't want to sell it or anything, blah blah blah. Alan fills the lawyer in on trying to kill Rick and Monica twice.
So that conversation is hilarious because the lawyer is like, okay, well, she cheated on you, so she's a homewrecker, and he's like, well, I mean, they're getting married again, so he didn't really wreck a home, and he's like, well, is she a bad mother? And Alan's like, no, she was lawyer is just like, you have nothing. And then he's like, well, what happened when she had the affair? And he goes, I tried to kill them twice. And the lawyer is like,
Yeah,
go home to your wife, or else you're going to lose your ancestral home, all your money, and custody of the kid. Go home to your wife.
yeah.
He even offers to buy him a steak dinner, and Alan turns it down, which is a bummer.
Luke comes up with the haunted ship name. I think he just said haunted ship.
Yeah, haunted ship or something like that. I don't know.
Milton is interested in Laura
Yep,
as Miss Star Eyes, whatever that is.
it's a cosmetics. It's a cosmetics company called Star Cosmetics.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, well,
But he wants her to be the face for it, or is scheming it anyway. It seems like, from what we see in a minute. Um, Alan breaks the news to Susan about the divorce not happening.
he comes home and Susan is doing that thing where she's trying to get dressed up to have a celebratory dinner, and she's got curlers in her hair because she was setting her her hair and all that. And he comes in
Yeah.
and she's just like, "What the hell are you doing here early?" And he's like, "Well, that's a hell of a greeting." So you can see he's like
Yeah.
in a mood. And she's like, "Well, I'm just getting ready for the celebration." And he's like, "There is no celebration. There will be no divorce." And she's just screwed.
Oops.
I
Laura
know.
tells Stephanie about the screen test. Milton says something about like he's on the phone with somebody and saying he got another sucker. So I
Right.
guess this is leading to Laura's departure and
It is.
demise temporarily.
Well, not demise, disappearance.
Hmm.
Disappearance. I knew that
December
as soon as
11th.
it came up, and I was like, "Oh my god, is she leaving already?" Like, because I know that this leads to that.
Yeah, I know. I think it's
It
just she
happened
leaves in
fast,
January.
but it happened
Yeah.
so fast.
I don't have many notes for this one because it felt kind of repetitive, felt like filler.
The 11th?
I have,
I have tons of notes.
yeah. All right. Well, I'll go through mine and you can fill it in. Joe and Heather, they're at court or whatever. Audrey and Bobby talk. I have Martin E. Brooks is back randomly. I forget his doctor name. He's the new doctor.
Wait,
Um,
which doctor? Which
Martin
one?
E. Brooks. Rudy.
Is it is it
He was the one that
sorry,
was, I guess, helping with the hooker case.
Dr. Bradshaw?
Yeah, that's Rudy.
Oh, okay. So that's Dr.
Yeah.
Bradshaw because Zach is also back in this episode at some point. And I didn't know if you were
Who?
talking about him. Zach, he's like the doctor who's always in the background. He was the one that
The one that
when
hooked up with Anne?
yeah, the one who
Okay.
didn't want to hook up with Annie, wanted to leave, and she was all over him, and he thought Steve was going to fire him. That's Zach,
Okay.
and he's
Luke and
around.
Robert. Luke and Robert talk about the naming the rooms in the boat. Scott calls about the divorce decree. Oh gosh. Sorry, my cat's getting on me.
Is this and this is the 11th or is this the 10th? I'm sorry,
This
I'm
is the
losing track.
11th.
Okay,
We
because I have
we
a billion
covered
notes
the
and they don't
10th.
seem to match up with yours.
Um, maybe you skipped the 11th.
No, honey,
um,
no.
it's hearing time. They expect a full recovery for the hooker.
Yes,
Um, Rick talks waterfront again. They have the lease option from that, what's his name? That mobster dude.
Darnley.
Heather gets probation, 6 months. Um, Luke, Ruby, and Bobby do lunch. They talk about Noah and stuff. I guess they're just recapping their storylines. Luke and Laura fight. I put dipstick agent. I forget what that was about. I mean, I can't
So a
remember.
lot
I was
of what's
tired.
going on in this episode with Luke and Laura is he is upset and jealous that she's going to get the attention from other people, and he's really being very insecure. He thinks
Yeah,
that if she becomes famous, she's going to drop him. It's really kind of crazy how insecure he is, considering how long it took for them to get together and what she went through to make sure that their marriage happened. But I think this might also be connected to the fact that they still don't have the divorce decree, so they're not on solid ground. And I think because he
yeah.
can't do anything about that, he's aggressively reacting to this. And it sucks because it's really annoying.
So yeah, they're fighting about that, and they also do the Scotty stuff with the decree. They go to Scotty's and he wet it and ruined it.
I love that. So Scotty told them to come pick up the divorce decree and they were fighting. So when Laura gets there, he tells her he's going to her ex-husband's or whatever. And she's like, "Well, I'm going to go with you." And here, that's so funny. Scotty took the divorce degree and he soaked it until all the ink ran and it was almost completely black. And I was laughing. That was so funny. And then he got his bag
Genius,
from
really.
Mexico and he's very funny. And he soaked that thoroughly and then put the divorce decree in it to be like, "Oh no, they did that. It wasn't me." And then he
He's such
invites
a
Luke
dick.
to come meet him at 2 o'clock. And Luke is like, "Ugh, what is this crap?" So him and Laura go to meet him, and Scotty's like, "Oh no, nothing happened. It wasn't my fault, but everything's destroyed. Haha." And Laura's like, "Oh, well, maybe that is what happened." And Luke is like, "Baby, water is free." And he's like, "He did this to us." And they cut to Scotty, and I think Scotty says like the craziest thing. because the whole reason he did it was because he wants them to be miserable all the time, because at any
Of course.
point he can come and destroy their marriage. And I laughed really hard because, like, that's genius. He never plans on doing anything to them, but he's just like putting the sword of Damocles over their head for this.
Right.
And then he's
Yeah.
just going to watch from a distance as they freak out. Now, this works on Luke. It doesn't work on Laura, because Laura believes underneath it all that Scotty's a nice guy and he's not going to do it. So she's just like moving on with her day, and Luke is like losing his mind about it. And
Yeah.
it's kind of awesome
As he
because
should.
it targeted the right person out of the couple, the one he
Right.
really wanted.
Right. Exactly.
Nice job, Scotty.
Although he almost got Laura killed on the boat. If she
Yeah,
would have
with
fell
that
off.
whole railing thing. Yeah, that was
Hmm.
bad. That was
I
bad.
kind of
Still,
wish
though.
something would have happened, just to,
Well,
if
if
he
she
would have
had
been.
fallen into the water, she would have survived. It's fine.
Yeah, but it could have been worse.
Oh, they were going to name
And
the room the Sterling Rose room after that rose. That's what they were naming the room. I forgot.
were they really? After
Mhm.
that rose that he
Yeah,
threw
but
on
I
the
think they
floor?
were just kicking ideas around and being ridiculous, and that's why they were doing it. You have to understand that half the conversations between Luke and Robert are all just them horsing around. They don't come to anything.
My last note for that is Heather visits Alice and goes off on her. And that's all I got.
Um,
What else you got?
so one of the big things that came out of this is that I didn't know that Audrey taught classes. And I went, Audrey's teaching classes, and Bobby gets an order for her textbooks, and the textbooks arrive. And I was like, when did Audrey teach anything? And it turns out that at this point in time, Audrey is head of nursing. So she's the head of the nursing students. So she starts teaching nursing classes at General Hospital. I had no idea. So I had to go look that up.
I didn't know.
Um, yeah, they're still like looking at Heather for assault with intent, but like I don't think it's going to go to anything. It doesn't really go to anything.
No.
And
She's free,
they
basically.
wanted 6 months delay so that she could receive treatment and evaluation, so they could see if she was capable anymore of murder, but also if she was nuts at the time that she went after Diana. So
Right.
everybody seems to believe she's fine. This is one of the wonderful situations in which sexism benefits women, in that they all think that Heather is such a sweet, such a soft, such a cute woman that she could never murder everyone. And it's just like, I'm from the future. She can. She will. She does. And I love her so much.
And she attempted it several times up to this point,
And yet
so
Dr. Katz is standing right there going, she's no threat to anyone. I don't think she's a threat to anyone. And Joe thinks she's cute. And like people in town are rallying behind her. And poor Ann Logan is just standing around going, do you not see the crazy person being crazy? And everyone's like, Ann, get over
I
it.
didn't I didn't remember that Anne was Steve's niece. I didn't remember
They
that.
don't mention it that often, but she
Yeah.
does. She does live at the Hardys. This is a
So
fun week for
you
Steve being like annoyed at everyone not doing their job at the hospital, and I love whenever he does that.
do they ever see Anne's parents? Like, is it Steve's brother or Steve's sister? We don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Unknown. All right.
I don't remember. If you remember in the comments, can you tell me? Because it drives me crazy when I don't know things.
Yeah. There's got to be people that watch from the beginning.
I will respond. I do respond to comments. I
Um,
also sometimes comment on the other podcasts if they're talking about Kevin and Lucy or
December
AJ.
14th. Lila's planning the annual family dinner that she wants to force Monica and Alan to have. Um,
And Edward's
and
helping her.
yeah,
I like when they
Leslie
team up.
and Leslie and Rick talk about the deal with Durnley. What's his name? Is that his
Darnley.
name?
So the deal
Durnley.
is, and I wrote it down, they repair the warehouse, right? The deal is,
Mhm.
and Joe is setting up the deal for them, but they,
Because it's in no way, shape, or form ready for children to play in it.
no. So their rent will be $10 a month. Wait, $10 a month for rent
Ooh, I'll move in there. I'll
with
make
a
it work.
first, with the first option to purchase. And now Durnley said that the property was worth, I don't know if he said 250,000 or 500,000, something, $250,000 the property is worth.
Right.
And Durnley was like, what a bunch of suckers. I get them to repair my warehouse for free and then I'll sell it right out from underneath them. And that's what he says on the phone to his guy. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what somebody would do because a scumbag.
Right. Yeah, he is.
He's a scumbag, and he really is.
Luke and Laura go to Joe for advice about, the situation.
And he says, go to
Ellen
Reno.
and yeah, Ellen
He
and
says, establish
Monica.
your residence 6 months in Reno. You get a quickie divorce, and you come back. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Monica and Ellen go to dinner. Edward and Lyla are like, we're gonna go out and leave you guys alone to have dinner.
I
And
know.
they're
And then
both like,
Alan,
no.
no, and Alan's like, I'm gonna have a drink, and then I'm going home. And then
Hmm.
Stella comes in, and Stella's like, we're doing veal Oscar, which is Alan's favorite meal. And they're arguing and taunting each other. And they decide to
He
actually have
wanted
dinner
more.
together.
He wanted more than a drink. That's what and he knew Monica would get. They know each other. What they would. They're playing each other. I feel.
I think he wasn't sure. I think he's bored. Literally, this is my opinion. I think he's bored with Susan. Monica is much
Well,
more interesting.
it's not exciting when you're not cheating anymore either.
Well, it's that. It's like the thrill of the hunt is over for him. But
Yeah.
also, again, Susan is a homebody. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't do anything but take care of the baby, right? Which is
Yeah.
admirable and normal for the time. But Alan is married to Monica, who is a
Hmm.
cardiac surgeon who can match him wit for wit. All of their arguments are clever and biting and funny. And Susan can't do that. She just tends to cajole and nag. Like, sorry about using nag, Susan. But she just does. She's
Excellent.
like constantly like when he said in the morning, I just want to read the paper and be left alone. She waited 10 whole seconds before she started harassing him about the divorce, which I can't blame her for. She wants to secure her position. But at the same
Right.
time, anytime somebody asks you for a little and quiet and you immediately jump on them, it's going to breed resentment.
Yeah.
But I also think that Monica goaded him into staying because she was like basically saying, I dare you to have dinner with me. What are you going to go home
Well, and
and eat crap?
and Lila had their favorite things cooked as well, so
Oh,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
always helpful.
Lila
So I was
was
like,
not
yeah.
playing. She set everything up. She even had champagne chilling. She was all in on
Hmm.
this.
Yeah.
And they get into a conversation where Monica is just basically taunting him throughout the dinner like, oh, you're gonna go home to your little, this is what you eat at home, huh? What do you have, sandwiches? Like she's just really awful, and it's awesome.
Right.
I like it so much.
But yeah, I do have in the next one that Joe said you can go to New York and file for divorce and wait or move to Reno.
Well, if
Rick and
you go to New York and you
Leslie,
file for divorce, it takes a year. If you
yeah,
go to Reno, you have to establish
6 months.
residence 6 weeks, and then you can get a divorce.
Rick and Leslie discuss Alice with Joe, recapping stories pretty much. Luke and Laura fight over her commercial. I guess she's got a commercial deal with that dude.
No, she has a casting call. She has nothing right now. He's upset over
Oh,
nothing
okay.
because the
I
only
heard
thing she
commercial in
got,
there. Maybe he said something like
no,
that.
it's a casting call for the commercial. It's nothing yet.
Oh, so it's a commercial for a commercial.
Yeah,
Got it.
and Tiffany's jealous and Luke is insecure
Yeah.
and Robert is the only one who's like, doesn't anybody see how this could be an opportunity for Laura?
And then my next note is, oh, Luke finally gives in to Laura, and he's like,
Sure.
okay, fine, whatever, I'm on it. Do your thing. And then
Uh,
we get everybody banging. We have Rick and Leslie sexy time, Luke and Laura sexy time. Alan plays that tape for Monica.
Yeah, okay, so they both have evidence against each other. This was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, which just goes to show that neither one of them was ever going to use that evidence against the other one. They just held it
Right.
as insurance. Because they literally got into, I'll show you mine if you show me yours conversation. These are adults. These are surgeons.
Mhm.
And he brings in his transcript. She brings in her tape. They start yelling at each other. They start attacking each other. They end up on the ground, rolling around on the ground. He ends up attempting to strangle her, and at this last second, instead of strangling her, they start kissing because Monica is exciting and Susan is boring.
And they have sexy time. So yeah, it's one of
They
those
don't
episodes
have
everybody has the
sex. They
sex.
just roll around on the floor a little bit.
Fondle.
And then they very awkwardly gather up the evidence and hand each other back their evidence, which is so funny. They're just like, she's like, here's your papers. He's like, here's your team.
Let's continue messing with each other's lives.
I
We
love
like
it.
it.
I love it so much.
The last
Oh my god.
episode of the week, December 15th, or it might be a midweek. I don't know where we're at.
Can I
Somewhere in
can I
December
say one
1981.
more thing about the last episode? The chili comes up again about how the chili is terrible at Kelly's. And the one thing that happens is Laura wouldn't eat. When Luke came and she was mad, Laura said she wasn't hungry, and that's how Luke knew she was extremely angry. Because remember, Laura's always hungry. So when they
Right,
work it out and they're at Kelly's, he tells her that we need to order dinner because you're on your 57th cracker. And she's like,
right.
are you keeping track of my crackers? And he's like, no, I'm guessing. Let's get the horrible chili. And he wants to. And here's another thing that always happens: Luke never gets to eat the food. So the chili comes and they decide to leave. And he's like, well, let's just go sit down and eat our chili. And she's like, no, I want to go home. So they go home and they never eat the food. No one eats the food.
We know this in soaps. Nobody eats food.
Well, no, Luke
Um,
in particular never eats the food. It's very funny to me.
so Scotty sees Alice in jail. I guess he's going to represent her.
Yeah,
And
he's her
Anne
lawyer.
sees Heather at the hospital with Rick, and she's not excited. I want to
Yes.
know what she did to Anne. Like it almost feels like she try to kill Anne or like something? I
Heather
don't
and
know.
Anne were fighting over Jeff Weber. And Heather won
But
because Anne wouldn't sleep with Jeff, and Anne wouldn't sleep with Jeff, but Heather would. The second
Heather
thing
would.
is that when the murder was happening, um, Diana wrote an A in blood, and they thought it was Anne, but it was Alice. So Heather threw Anne under the bus, saying that she's the murderer. There's a lot of reasons why Anne hates Heather.
Okay, right. All right, because she just acts like she is the worst,
Yeah,
which I guess,
she is.
it looks like to her. She is not. How dare you?
She is the worst. I love her. I'm
Soon
not
she'll
saying
be
I don't love
free.
her. I know she will be
Um,
free.
Steve says, simmer down to Anne because she acts a fool.
Steve Steve is like, this is no place for an emotional outburst. We can't do that. This is work. We'll go talk about it in my office. Like everything, he's
Yeah.
so, and like she knocks. It's so upsetting to me. I felt so bad for Anne in that moment because Heather came up to, okay, so first Heather goes to the hospital and wants to get a job there. And Rick's like,
Mm,
I got to think about it. That's crazy. And then Heather is so happy that she might get a job and also that Jesse was backing her because Jesse said, if you're going to turn a new leaf, I'm going to back you. And Heather's shocked because nobody supports Heather in Heather's mind. Everybody in town has been supporting her, but nobody supports
right.
her according to Heather. So when she gets to the front desk, she's done talking to Jesse. Jeremy shows up, who's Anne's son, adopted son. So Jeremy is doing what a kid does, being polite as far as he can with, well, he wants to tell her to go to hell and he can't.
Yeah.
So finally, he does. He tells her what he thinks of her and she attacks him. She starts shaking Jeremy. And I was like, oh my God, she just got out of prison. She's shaking a child. Like he's a
He
child.
deserved it. He was being a little shithead. She was trying to be
Oh,
nice.
he's the adult. You don't shake a
She
child.
even
It's not
said,
yours. No, you don't shake a child.
you do when they're
But
yelling
anyway,
at you.
and then
Shake the child.
Anne comes out with her tray of medications and sees that this crazy person is shaking her child. She does not have any other references. She drops the pills and goes to separate the two people. And then everybody comes down on Anne like Anne had some kind of mental breakdown when she was just protecting her kid. Dr. Bradshaw is a complete dick to her. I was like, Dr.
Yeah.
Bradshaw, you suck. Like he walked up and like, can you imagine if you're at work and you dropped a tray and then somebody else just walked over and said, it's not very professional to drop a tray. Suck it. Like, what is wrong with you? Who says that? And then like
Right.
Steve comes in and she's like, well, Dr. Bradshaw's yelling at me. I'm trying to clean the pills up. And they're like, why is a child playing with pills? It's like, he's not playing with pills. He's helping me pick them up off the floor. What is wrong with these men? And then Steve is like, don't have an emotional outburst right now because we're on the shut up, Steve. Like it's insane to me. And then like Anne goes and sits in the lounge area, which is just 3 freaking wicker chairs that just sit there and everybody has their private conversations in front of everyone. And
Right.
Steve takes Jeremy away to get his story because they can't have that conversation on the floor because Steve is the only person who respects professionalism in this hospital.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much.
and then Rick talks to Anne about why she freaked out. And she has every reason in the world to freak out, but because she's a woman and it's the 80s and he's talking down to her. He's like, "Well, you need to calm down and you need to get over your feelings about this crazy person who tried to kill you, tried to frame you for murder and then shook your son in front of everyone. You need to get over those feelings because she might be working here." And Anne's like, "Why the hell would she be working here? She's a psycho." And Rick is like, "See, now those are the feelings you have to let go of because she might be working here and you need to try." And I was like, this man needs to be shook. Like he should have been shook like Jeremy was shook because that's an insane thing to do to Anne, who already works on staff and you don't respect.
Yeah, but do they know all of that stuff about her? Like,
Everybody
or
knows
does
that Anne was thrown under the bus in that situation with Diana. They also at the hospital all know about the Jeff Weber thing because
'cause
they all work at the hospital.
sometimes I feel like it's like one person sees all of this stuff happen where everybody else around them doesn't really see it. So
Right.
in
But at
that
the same
case,
time, nobody asked Anne her side of the story before they started immediately calling her
true.
emotional
They did
and
like
telling her
dump
she
on
was
her.
awful. And Dr. Bradshaw is absolutely out of line. And the funny thing is that Rick is like, Dr. Bradshaw is an excellent surgeon, but he's kind of a douchebag and a perfectionist. And I was like, yup. So
Not
at least,
Rudy.
yeah, but it was funny because like the way these men sometimes talk to the women on the show, it's like they just met women yesterday and they think they're all 4-year-olds.
Right.
It's very frustrating to watch. And I was really in Anne's
So
corner, and I love Heather, so but I was in Anne's corner today.
somebody put out the story to the paper about Laura possibly getting like recognized.
Right.
So Luke is not pleased about this.
Luke thinks Laura did it. Again, what is his problem this week? Like, what is his
Why would
problem?
she even? It makes no sense of why she would even think about doing that
Well,
because she doesn't even have anything yet.
he thinks
It's just
that she just
stupid. Bad
decided
writing.
she's made yeah, it is. No, I don't know if it's bad writing.
It's bad.
It's frustrating writing. But
Stupid.
I- he thinks, I guess maybe we're just trying to deal with Luke's insecurity right now. I think it's because he doesn't have a job and there's a lot going on. So I get it. Like it's realistic for a man to be insecure in that scenario, although it is obnoxious. But he, for whatever reason, thinks that Laura just wants to leave him for stardom now. And she wants to become a
Right.
model, and like all these men are going to be all around her, and it's going to be terrible for him and for them. But he doesn't seem to like recognize that Laura has a right to make this opinion on her own. So they have this discussion, they work it out, he's on board, and then the next day it's in the paper. She doesn't even know it's in the paper. She's asleep. He comes in hot and he starts slapping her in the butt with the paper and trying to wake her up and demanding she get up and address this issue. She has no idea what the hell is going on. And I love Laura
Right.
because the entire time Laura is just like, "What's your problem? I'm trying to sleep," which is so relatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when
Right.
she gets up, he's like, "You did this." And she's like, "I didn't even know what the hell you're talking about." And he won't believe her. He won't believe her. So he's going to the paper to find out what happened at the paper.
Stupid.
And I'm like, "You serious? You just got married. You don't believe your wife at all? Like, what are you doing, dude?"
And Scott and Brian reconnect because they
I
were
love
best
Scott and Brian.
friends.
Brian was
Yeah.
like, "Yay, Scotty!" And that's how I react whenever Scotty's on camera. So
So we already covered Heather wants to talk to Rick about working at the hospital. Luke goes to
mhm.
the paper lady, asks
She
who
was
gave her
nice.
the
I liked
story.
her. Her name was
Asks who gave her the
Beatrice.
story. She doesn't talk though, right? She doesn't say who
She
gave the
hedged.
story.
She said she received a letter. Like first she says no. She's like, reporters don't give up their sources. That would be crazy. And then Luke is
Right.
like super aggressive to this woman who's alone in an
He
office,
threatens
which
to
I
sue
found.
her, I think.
Yeah, he was incredibly inappropriate. And she just says,
Yeah.
"Listen, I received the letter. The letter said what was going on. I printed the letter like that's my job." And she's like, "Did you want me to interview you?" He's like, "Maybe you talk to the Spencers before you print anything about the Spencers." And she's like, "That's not how the news works." You
Yeah.
know? And he goes home. So now he's all happy because he found out that Laura didn't do it. But Laura does this great thing where she takes the paper and she sits down and she gives him the coldest cold shoulder. And he's like, "Why don't you talk to me?" And she's like, You told me to read, so I'm sitting here reading. And I was like, yeah, don't take that crap from him.
Yeah, it's annoying.
But it works out, and
Um,
it works out. And there's something weird about people just keep showing up
for
at their
now.
house
Yeah.
about the
Um,
Mystaris thing, and that was confusing to me. Did you real was Scotty paying them to do that?
I don't think we know that yet. He
Okay,
might
because it
have
was
been though.
confusing. He was talking to them outside, like different. First, a guy broke in.
Oh yeah, he did do it. I'm sorry, he did.
Yeah,
I
a
have
guy
that's my last
broke
note.
in, and he's like, "I want to meet the new
You're
Miss
skipping
Sarai."
ahead now, so it's throwing me off. Because
I'm
I'm like, wait,
sorry.
where am I at?
All
You're
right, get
getting like way ahead. All right,
because we were
so
talking about that one storyline, and somebody told me they like to talk about single storylines.
well, I'll do that again next time.
No, don't do that.
So Heather
I'll get
sees her
so
doctor,
lost.
Mr. Angelino, and he's continuing to say, "Make peace with your
Sorry,
mama because it's
cat.
good for her." Um, Jeremy goes off on Heather, which we already talked about,
Mm.
and comes in. Yep, we
Yep,
already
that's
talked
all I was
about
talking about.
that. Luke
Sorry.
and Laura, yep, did that. Oh, so Luke and Laura are there. The kids start coming in or whatever, and wants Laura's
Hmm.
autograph for the paper. Kids barge in. Luke kicks them out. We already covered the rest of that. Blah blah blah. Anne finds out Heather may work there. We knew that. Alice, who does Alice talk to? She tells somebody her
So,
story, but I
so
forget. I didn't know who
Scotty
that guy
takes
was.
her to see Mr. Richardson. Now,
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Richardson is I think he's the prosecuting, he's the DA. He wants,
Mm,
because he wants to
I didn't catch that.
he wants to charge her with manslaughter, which is
Right.
unfair because it's basically self-defense in this case. And Scotty says as much. He's like, this is a case of a woman defending her daughter, who Diana was definitely trying to kill. And he makes the case that Alice Grant knows her daughter has issues and spends all of her time trying to protect Heather from herself. And
Yeah.
Mr. Richardson's like, I don't care. And Scotty's like, let me bring you Alice and have her tell you this story herself because it will be compelling. And Mr. Richardson's like, fine, do it. Alice comes in and tells the most heartbreaking story of how she's been trying to protect her daughter from herself her entire time. And she tells the
Get out the
story of,
violin.
yeah, well, Alice is compelling. She is. And she gets to the point and they're like, well, what happened with the gun? And she is so upset because she knew that if she didn't get a hold of the gun, that Diana was going to shoot Heather. She was going to kill her daughter. So they struggled over the gun, and she says multiple times, I could not get her to let go of the gun. I could not let her get it. And the gun went off. That's a clear case of self-defense, accidental, because you're allowed to be stuff
Right, right.
in defense of others, right? So that she tells that story, and she's very like good. She's very upset. She cries in all the right places, and she's a
All the right
genuine person, unlike Scotty and Heather. I love
place.
Scotty. And when Mr. Richardson hears that, he realizes as soon as that goes in front of a jury, there's no jury in the world that's going to convict a mother who is trying to protect their daughter and with their mentally ill daughter. So like
Right.
he knows that that's a bad case. So he's not going to screw up his record with that. So he dismisses.
Yeah.
So Alice is free.
And then at the end, we see Luke and Laura kissy, and
Yeah.
we find out that Scott did it, arranged for the kids to do that. That's
I
all I
think
got for this week.
I don't understand that. Like that was unclear to me when I was watching it, or whether or not he paid them to do it to drive Luke crazy, or if he knew if they were doing it and then he was paying them for the information. It wasn't clear to me what was happening. But also, I had to
We
watch
may
this last
find out.
episode while I was at work, and everyone at work is screaming and running around crazy.
All
Um,
right.
this week was so fun. Like I loved Steve just trying to do his job while everyone else is insane. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's so every. I know he's not in a lot of storylines, but watching this one, he's like a real person in the middle of a soap opera. Like all the people are having drama
Yeah.
and they're running crazy, and Steve is just like, "Can't we just get the reports? Can't we just do our surgeries? I mean, we're doctors."
Right.
I just
Got
love that.
doctoring to do.
I know. I liked
Yeah.
Brian's love of Scotty. That was
it was a good week. I don't like the Luke and Laura stuff.
no.
It could be better. So I'm hoping it gets better in the next batch.
So my favorite part of the entire week is in the first episode we watched. Um, Edward and Lyla are going off at each
Yes,
other, and
I like
Lyla
that one a
starts
lot.
talking about hitting on Randall and how hitting on
Yeah.
young men gives her all this like energy and
Yeah,
verve and stuff. And Leslie Charleston breaks. She starts cracking up laughing, and you
she
can't see
does.
her at first because the camera is on Lyla and Edward,
Right.
and Anna Lee is so she's perfection in this scene, and it like pans over to extend the scene, and Leslie Charleston is literally cracking up laughing. But
Yeah,
because
I
I'm
saw
pretty
that.
sure Monica would have laughed in that scene, they just left it because it was
All
perfect.
right.
She literally cracked up laughing.
Yeah.
And it's rare to see that. It's more likely you'll see them stumble over a line and recover, which I think makes them sound more like real people. But that was Monica full on laughing in that scene. Leslie Charleston was caught off guard by their funny banter, and that was
I know they
awesome.
say that they don't what did they I forget how
They
to
don't
call it. Like
improv much.
yeah, they don't improv much, but it does feel like sometimes they do, and and I guess that is good writing when it's stuff that looks like it could be improv, you know? But
Well,
I do
that's what
wonder what
Tristan said. Tristan said they don't improv, but I have a feeling that
yeah.
like
He said he got a couple
every
things in.
once in a while somebody tosses a
Yeah,
zinger in
and
because
it
they would have been
helps,
on a
but
tight turnaround schedule, even though it's faster now.
yeah.
For the time period they were moving quick.
Yeah,
But
so I
that
don't
was
know what's going to
funny.
happen with these storylines, how these are going to wrap. Because I know so we're going to get into 1982, but like,
I know how some of
I'm
them wrap.
trying to, yeah, I guess they wrap soon because they're in like a totally different place in 1982 when we started in July of that year.
Yeah, but also remember that the storylines move very quickly. Some of them move slow and others move quick. So you have storylines going
Yeah,
at different
yeah.
paces all the time.
Like
I
now, I
like
feel like everything's quick, like real quick.
I miss the pacing of the older shows because like I feel like there was always a story a long arc. Like the Sports Center is a long arc. It's going to be going on in the
Yeah,
background for years. It's not going away anytime soon. But then you'll
right,
have a
right.
murder mystery that ties up in 6 weeks, and then you'll have another storyline that ties up in 3 months, like or 8 months or
Yeah,
whatever. So like there's always like, and also they used to have like A, B, and C storylines. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday would be two storylines, and then then Tuesday and Thursday would be a different storyline sometimes. Like they
yeah,
especially did that in the 90s. You would know what days on Monday if you saw in the first 20 minutes, whoever you saw in the first 20 minutes of the show who were on for the entire episode. You weren't going to see anybody else unless there was a surprise character at the end. So
yeah.
it was pretty easy to know if I needed to leave because it was going to be a Sunny Corinthos episode, and then I did.
Yeah, right. All right. Anything else to add before we wrap up?
I don't like this insecure version of
Luke?
Luke. I don't like
Yeah.
him. Um,
Nope.
I get it. I understand. Like, I do. I understand where he's coming from in this scenario. He's supposed to be the man of the house. He doesn't have a job. He's supposed to be in charge of everything, but he married an equal partner. Like, I feel like
Right.
for an 80s man, he's just unsettled in his
Yeah.
place and what he's supposed to do. Um, but he's
He's
taking that
very all
out
over
on
the place.
Laura. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is all over the place.
That's
Although
probably why I like Bill Eckert better because I feel like he's just written not as crazy as this Luke is written
I
in the
think
many years. He's
if
the
we
one
were
written.
sometimes when we're watching this, and I know we're watching because we were watching for the Luke and Laura storyline, I almost feel like we would be better served watching the Monica Allen storyline at this point because a lot's going on with David Lewis, with Anna Lee, with the Quartermains are shining right
Right.
now. They're shining and they're doing amazing things, and they're very silly, and they're most
And
likely the
Luke and
comedic
Laura are
relief.
not.
No, but you know what? They always work it out at the end. I do like how when he gets like when he drops an ultimatum, Laura just goes, "No, I don't think that's happening." Because at one point he
Right.
was like, "This is the end." He's like, "This is the end of the discussion," and Laura was like, "Absolutely not. This is not the end of the discussion. I'm still talking." And I kind of
Yeah.
like that they showed that for her. And when Scotty said that when she was involved, when she wanted to be a model before she was very self involved, I think what he meant was independent.
Right.
Because like they all want a little wifey to stay at home and do everything for them, and none of these are all powerful women. That's not happening.
Nope. Lila ain't doing it either.
I'm sorry about my lighting. The sun is moving, and now I am an angel.
All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap this episode
I'm
up.
an
Thanks for
angel.
joining us. Thanks for joining us at Queers and Soaps. We're requesting some, um, if you see the Venmo at the bottom, we're requesting some donations. If you're liking the podcast, we have some stuff behind the scenes we got to pay for and stuff. If anything, we'll do $1, 50 cents, whatever. And thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Bye, y'all.